Neriah, how you doing?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
I'm absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so happy. I have to apologize though, really quickly. My voice is completely shot right now.
I wouldn't even notice.
Well, because I work as a DJ, and last night the New York Mets were in an elimination game, and they were like that close to getting knocked out of the playoffs, and they had some like crazy home run, and I wasn't thinking and started running around the bar like, oh, let's fucking go, all that shit. And then
I can only imagine.
it didn't work out well. It was very unprofessional of me. And then I woke up today and I was like, oh shit,
Hey, at least you didn't lose your voice. I've been there and I'm like, uh-oh.
Like we were saying before, again, if I lose my voice here, at least I can like whisper quietly into the mic. I don't have to sing like you do. I mean, I might. Yeah. We'll see where this goes. Maybe I'll start singing in like 20 minutes. Where are you coming to us from right now?
Los Angeles.
Nice. You're about to start a headlining tour, or are you in between shows right now?
I'm in between shows, not a headline. I'm about to go to another run, opening up for Eage, which will be really fun. And we have a few more touring things planned, but yeah, no headline at the moment.
Is that the show where you're coming to? I think you're coming to New York in like a week, right? That's part of that opening act?
In November. Yeah, in the beginning of November, so a little over a month.
Gotcha. That Mercury Lounge, right?
Where is it in New York? I think it might be. Is there a place called the Racket? I could totally be making that up.
Yeah.
I think we're playing the Racket.
Okay.
Let me check.
I've never been there. It sounds like a cool venue, though.
Me neither.
So basically, I just wanted to talk about, because you have a lot of stuff going on right now, but I thought maybe we could go back and kind of do a whole overall biography of your life and your career. Starting with, I know you started writing music very, very early, like age 5-ish, right?
I did. I wrote my first song at 5.
And now, I know you also, one of your father's favorite presents you ever gave him is you wrote him a Christmas song. Is that song?
No, that was probably when I was like 13, but I wrote my first song when I was 5. It was the first time I think my parents got divorced when I was 5, and it was the first kind of flow of emotions that I felt. And at a young age, I mean, my parents said I started to sing before I started to talk. So it was always in my blood. And I always had a little composition journal that who knows at 5-year-old how I even knew how to write, but I was writing songs. And my dad had painted me this picture, and I would look at it all the time every night before I went to sleep. And it was a picture of a wishing well and dolphins and birds. And I guess I would just look at it so much that was my first song. And I wrote it when I was 5, and we actually got it like recorded, which was really fun. But yeah, the Christmas song, I think I was probably 13. To this day, he's like, when are you releasing this? I'm like, oh my gosh.
What are the lyrics to that song? Are you too afraid? Too embarrassed?
For the Christmas song?
For the Christmas song.
California Christmas. I don't even remember. It was like, it's a California Christmas, one without the snow. I was like trying to rhyme every word, but it was very sweet.
Well, if you're coming to New York in November, you're going to see a very different Christmas than in California.
Oh, 100%. Will it be snowing by then?
I mean, theoretically, it depends. So sometimes it'll just be like, it'll be like 80 degrees, and the next day it'll just be
what?
Like 30.
I didn't even think about that. It's going to be so cold. I need to prepare.
Yeah, it's going to be, it depends. New York is all over the place. In every possible way that a place could be all over the place, New York is. Weather, people, everything. It's a whole different vibe here.
It really is. Every time I visit it, I feel like I've picked up on that.
Do you come here often?
I've gone there a few times for some shows, and throughout the years, like I've been there to visit friends or if I have any work, but the longest I've probably ever been there is like 5 days. So I wouldn't say too often. And I feel like it's like the perfect time for me. I could never live in New York. It's so chaotic and crazy for me. But I love it every time I go.
What are the audiences like in comparison to, I mean, I guess all over the place, but in comparison to your hometown of LA, any different?
It's really different. I feel like everywhere you go, I think, especially depending on if you're opening for someone, I think like around my fan base for shows, like it's pretty similar, but you'll definitely have like, I mean, I have, very specific fans that I remember in all the cities, which is always fun to see them again. But yeah, it's cool. It's so funny because when you think about that, like when I'm on stage, like a lot of times, like you can see the audience, but if they're not lit properly, like sometimes you're like just singing to a dark room.
Uh-huh.
But it's always fun to just see like the little interactions or what songs they're singing along to, and who responds to questions and is screaming and like who's crying. And yeah, I love to have fun with the audience and chat with them the whole time.
The thing I will say about New Yorkers is they're no matter what, they're kind of on, whether that's they're on because they're really excited or they're on because they're really not excited. They're kind of one or the other. They're rarely neutral.
100%. I totally agree with that.
Which is, I think, kind of the reason, like you say, you couldn't live a place like here. But like I know a lot of New Yorkers would be like, I couldn't live in LA because it's too laid back. We're so used to kind of the chaos of the
Yeah.
city that at this point, it's just part of who we are.
Yeah. I mean, kudos to you. I'm like, that's living in New York that would scare me.
You get used to it. But
You get used, of course.
so when you first started writing music, what does that really entail when you're, between the ages of like 5 and 13? Are you basically writing lyrics and kind of singing the melodies,
Yeah.
or do you write in chords?
So, I at that time I had this composition journal that I would write lyrics in it, and it was almost like poems. Like I would just write things, and I didn't even know really what a song structure was at that age.
Hmm.
And my dad, I mean, he's very like, if you're gonna do anything, be the best at it. So he actually got me in piano lessons every single week, to be classically trained, and I never learned piano. I would just have my piano teacher play chords, and I would sing and I would write and I would sing my poems, or I would sing My Heart Will Go On. That was like the only two options every single class. To this day, I mean, now thankfully I've picked up and taught myself a little bit to get around with piano and guitar. But yeah, it was mostly just poems and journal entries that a 5-year-old, was writing about. And if I saw a TV show or I had a crush, I don't even know. Looking back at it, I'm like, where are you getting all this information from? But yeah, it was fun. I think at a very young age I was like, I knew what I wanted to do, and I was like, I love this. I have so much fun. I loved singing. So yeah, I mean, it's been part of my life for literally as long as I can remember.
Was there anything else when you were young? You're like, oh, maybe I could do this kind of thing. I know your mother's an actress, your father's a doctor. Were those ever in the equation?
No, actually, I was really good at tennis at a really young age, and my dad was like, "You're gonna go be a professional tennis player. Like, here are all these cute outfits. You can wear a skirt." And I remember I was training so hard at the age, I was probably like 6 or 7. I started at a very young age, and I mean, we would play at 6 in the morning. I had lessons, I had coaches. And one day I was like, I am so pissed. I hate this. I was like, I'm not doing this. And I remember they were throwing me the ball and I was hitting it like a baseball. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And yeah, that quickly stopped. I think I got pushed a little too hard with that one, and I just didn't enjoy it as much. So went back into music. I did a lot of like musicals growing up in school, especially like elementary school. I did so many. And yeah, I mean, still to this day, like pickleball is like my new hobby and obsession that I love, which probably brings me back to my roots playing tennis a little bit. But yeah, other than that, I stuck to music.
Yeah, and I kind of want to ask about, because you have a very unique upbringing because you were in LA.
Mhm,
Your mother, for
mhm,
people who don't know, is Brooke Burke. Yeah, so
mhm,
you grew up in the industry, and I'm curious
mhm,
about that because I love
mhm.
the entertainment industry because I love it because to me, when I grew up in a very small town. It was like this, I couldn't even imagine like New York and music and
Yeah.
TV and all that thing. But you coming from that lifestyle, did that kind of
Mhm,
affect your interest in becoming a musician? Either, maybe negatively because you can see, the amount of attention and how hectic it can be, or
mhm.
positively because you really have a firsthand account of the benefits of working in that
Yeah,
industry.
I think if anything negatively, maybe for my parents, of them just seeing what it was like, they were like, I don't know if I want my kid to go in this. And, none of them were anywhere near the music industry. So I think that was even scarier for them to be
Hmm.
like, we're just going to throw our daughter into this and see what happens. And, my parents were very like, they both came from nothing and worked so hard to get to where they were. So they're like, you're not going to get anything from us. Like, you need to work hard. You need to go to college. You need to get straight A's. So I think that I had a very different mindset of it going into it. But for sure, like when I was younger, I mean, going to events with my mom, I think there was definitely something that was I felt inspired by. I think the biggest thing for me is when she was on Dancing with the Stars. My favorite part about the whole thing was watching the performances and people singing. And that definitely, I had a lot of opportunities to be able to see people perform live. And I think that definitely, seeing that at a young age, I was like, oh my gosh, I want to do this. It definitely created a lot of dreams and being able to see what that world was like. And yeah, I mean, I was super grateful. I at a very young age, even paparazzi, it was something that I don't know. I feel like when you grow up and it's always kind of been around, I didn't know anything else. But yeah, my parents have, I'm so proud of both of them, and they have really done a great job with kind of teaching me the ins and outs of the industry, and also like for the music industry. I think just like preparing me for everything and growing up around it probably definitely helped.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but the older I get, I had a lot of, when you're a kid, you have criticisms of how your parents might react to certain things and how they think
Oh,
about
for
certain
sure.
things. But you have a very interesting thing, because I know every kid kind of feels that. But now, as
Hmm.
your career is starting to blow up, you are
Hmm.
going through a similar path as your parents. So you're seeing it from a
Hmm.
firsthand account in the same way that they did, from
Hmm.
starting from nothing and watching your career flourish like this. Has
100%. And
has that
I
kind of
I
changed your
think
opinion on maybe certain ways that they raised you, or any ways that you may have had difficulties with them?
100%. I mean, I'm so grateful for how I was raised, and the fact that like at a very young age they really instilled a great work ethic into me, and I think that was the biggest takeaway, that I'm so proud of them for doing that. And making sure whatever I was doing, I was working really hard. And even when I was pursuing music, I was in college, I was getting straight A's, I was the top of my class, so like I really knew how to work really hard. But I think, yeah, like looking back at it, I definitely see, being in the industry for a few years, especially as a woman, and like, being so young when you're brought into it, there's a lot of crazy people, and there's a lot of, the music industry there's a lot of competition. It is really hard on your mental health. So I definitely see where their fears were, of letting me go into it. But at the same time, I think as I got older, they saw how hard I was working. And, that was a big part why I didn't use either of their last names.
Hmm.
I just went by Neriah, because I was like, something for me, it's like I'm so grateful for the life I was given and being able to have all these opportunities. But I was like, this is something that I want to do completely on my own. I don't want my parents to have, you know, I don't want people to see me and be like, oh, you just made it because of your parents or this. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going by Neriah and everything. Like, this is something that I can have for myself, that I can work hard, and, no one is going to be able to argue with that.
And it's just like, especially nowadays on the internet, people are so, I mean, look, you don't have to agree with me. You can be perfectly diplomatic on this if you want.
Yeah.
I'll say it. I'm just a guy. But like, people are so fucking like critical of if anyone had any connection, because they
Yes.
don't understand that, like, yeah, you also
No.
have to put an obscene amount of work in. So they'll just write you
100%.
off completely because they don't really understand what goes into it.
Yeah, and I think that's something, I think I've been so lucky with my fan base and my followers. I think, I've actually never really had an issue with that, because I think people see how hard I work, and they see, I mean, even my fans, I send out like 20 free love letters to them every single week. I mean, I'm constantly talking to them. They know I work so hard. And I
Like
think,
physically written letters.
oh yeah, like physically handwritten
You're
letters,
like
like
writing
that's become,
Valentines essentially to random
literally, it's
people.
it's become a thing in our noodle community, which has been amazing. But yeah, at the same time, like coming up from that, like I also, being completely diplomatic about it too, it's like I understand like how much that has helped, and being able to have opportunities. I mean, I'm so grateful even for me to have been able to get an education. I mean, there's some things that I think it's about growing up and being thankful for what you have, and also realizing like we are so lucky for everything. You're so lucky to wake up in the morning and be able to be healthy, and there's so many things that I think people take for granted. So that's something for me, I feel like since I've been little, I've been very cognizant of that, and just being grateful and thankful for everything, and also realizing, you're going to grow up and you're going to do what you want to do, but you have to work hard. And no matter where you come from, I mean, you have to work so hard. And in the music industry, if you want something, like you better be able to get into a room and work harder than every single other person for the rest of your life.
It's
Like
it's
there is
brutal.
so much.
Yeah,
So,
I went to college for drumming actually, here in the city. And man, when I was in college, like, when you're in a small town and you're pretty good, you're like, oh, I'm the shit, dude. I'm going to
Oh yeah, and
fucking,
then you get to college and you're like,
oh my
yeah.
God. And my college was on 13th Street in the middle of Manhattan.
Oh,
So
yeah, it's crazy.
yeah. And I thought like, oh, I'll be good and I'll work hard. But my work hard was like, what other people were, that was like their day off. What I was doing for
Yeah.
work, I was getting people were like, oh yeah, I just went and played 17 gigs last night and I slept 2 hours. And at the same time, they're like amazing every time.
Yeah, it's wild.
It's really kill or be killed in the industry, but in a way that pushes the people who are really, really worthy of it to the top because you can't get there unless you absolutely brutalize yourself.
100%. And I think for me, it's like I'm such an overworker. I will work myself to death and I live off of it. I cannot sit still. And I went to school for marketing. So I am so involved in every single aspect of my career. Sometimes where I'm like, okay, guys, like this is crazy. But yeah, I mean, it takes so much time. I mean, lately I've been really trying to learn how to be better at piano and guitar, and it takes hours. I have to do that. And then I have to, work on my voice and make sure I'm warmed up or I'm practicing for a new song. And then if I have photo shoots coming up, I have to make sure I'm working out enough and I'm eating healthy and I'm planning everything and I'm keeping the community alive. Like there is so much, I feel like 24/7. It's like my boyfriend and all my friends are like, you talk about work all the time. I'm like, work is my life. I was like, there's not a second that goes by that I'm not working, and I love it. I feel so grateful to be able to do it. And, for me, I'm like, no day feels like work because I love what I do so much. And I'm super lucky to have found something like that.
And I think whether it's conscious or subconscious, I think people, fans specifically, or just people who know about an artist, maybe they're not fans, but they, heard of them. You can pick up the people that are just kind of the back end or kind of the face of the product in terms of maybe a singer or a band, and the people who work on every single aspect of it. They're the people that talk about their music. They don't just show up, sing the song that's written for them. People, especially
100%.
nowadays, pick up on that.
Yeah.
So even
I agree.
Even if it wasn't, even from just a business perspective, being involved in all of that it's only a good thing,
Well, and I think it makes it so much more me. And I think, it's my biggest thing is being able to be vulnerable and be myself and let people know that they're not alone in certain things they're going through. And I'm like, who else is going to explain that? I'm like, I have to explain everything. And, it's so fun. Like I have so much fun in every single different lane of this industry and of my artistry. And I also write a lot for other artists, which is so fun. And I love being able to create that world and being a part of, I'm such a people's person. I think that's really what it comes down to. Like, I love talking to people. I can talk for way too long. And yeah, I mean, even meeting fans, it's so fun. And I think for me, it's like, it's all worth it when you're on the stage and you see, you hear a crowd singing your songs, and it's the most, to this day, every single time, it is the most surreal moment in the world. And I sit there and I take my in-ears out and I'm like, this is crazy.
Do you remember the first time that an audience knew your songs?
Yes, I actually do. I was the first time ever, I was at an Alexander Stewart. I was opening up for him on tour, and we were playing some shows in Canada, which I had never been to before. And I was like, oh my gosh, nobody is going to know my lyrics. Like, this is going to be whatever. This is going to be so awkward. Like, what if nobody does? And I'm trying to do call and response.
Yeah.
And I remember I started singing Unfinished Business, and literally the whole crowd for the pre-chorus, I didn't even have to sing. I was like in shock. I started crying. I was like, oh my gosh, everyone knows all the words. And it's been so fun. I think that was the start. And now I do so many, call and responses with the fan of telling them, let's sing this part. And they've kind of hopped onto all of those trends. But I feel like as an artist, no matter how many times you hear that, every single time, it's like the most gratifying experience and feeling in the world.
Yeah. So what was the point where you went from, writing kind of songs as a kid here and there to like, this is the full thing that I'm doing this all the time. I'm just writing songs constantly.
I feel like COVID was honestly a big turning point for me. I had written songs my whole life, but it was kind of just for fun. I would post, covers on YouTube, but not really original music. And then when COVID happened, I was like, you know what? I'm going to download Logic. I'm going to make a little studio in my room with some speakers and a SM7B, like a mic. And I'm just going to
That's what I'm
write three
doing right now.
songs a
I'm
day.
literally in that
Yeah,
exact studio right now.
exactly. And I was like, I am just going to produce. I'm going to learn how to do all this stuff. And I started writing 3 songs a day every single day of quarantine. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I love this. And I was introduced to a producer and I'd never worked with another person before. And it was one of my friends. And we were like, you know what? Like, let's just make a project together. And we ended up in like a few weeks writing my first EP that I ended up putting out. And yeah, I mean, even in college, I marketed it. I was like, for my presentations, I was like, "Hi, like I'm an artist. Like I want to put this project out. This is my ideas." And I released that, and then I had my manager actually had found me through him and set up a meeting. And after that, it was like every single month we had at least one song. I mean, I was probably writing 120 songs at that point a year. It was crazy. I'd never written so many in my life, and I was in 2 to 3 sessions every single day. And I loved it. I was like, this is my favorite thing. I love going all over the city and being able to meet new people and write new songs and get to know each other. And then I started posting everything on TikTok and releasing, and we started to get some traction. And I was like, you know what? Here we are. This is it. I think I've always had the mindset. I was like, I knew music from such a young age was going to be my career path. I was just like, I'm not going to stop working until it happens. And I think when I was like 6, like in school, my dad has like a frame of it somewhere, but they're like, what is your goal? And I was like, to sell out the Staples Center. And I was like, so yeah, I mean, it's been so amazing.
So then how'd you get hooked up with Phil Lawrence? Because I mean, he's the absolute man.
Yeah, so him and Babyface actually were my first mentors, which was wild.
That was during
Actually, one of
college?
my yes, that was before I was like working on my project that I was like actually gonna put out, or it might have been right along the same time. But Babyface was actually my first like real session, and I was terrified to go into that. And I was like, "Hi, like we're gonna write a song." He's like, "What do you want to write about?" I don't even remember the name. And he was like playing guitar, and I was just like in awe. I was like, "Is this really happening right now?" But yeah, he was mentoring me for a while. I was working a lot with them and like their teams, and I was at Record Plant a lot. You know what? Was that? I think that was after my first project. I think because I think that was going to be my first little album, and we ended up not releasing the songs because the sound just didn't feel right for me at the time. Or maybe that was right before COVID. The timeline I'm so bad with remembering, but
So like
yeah,
Loner
that
and Jump
was.
Rope, were those out yet?
I'm trying to remember because I think maybe I think I was writing them at the same time, and then because I know Loner was my first one. I don't think I was working with them at that point anymore. I'm trying to think because we had done like a whole project of songs. You know what? Maybe it was before because I think those were supposed to be my first songs. Then I was like, you know what? I'm going to release this. And COVID happened and, everything kind of shut down.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, learning from them was a pleasure. Very sweet. And yeah, looking back at it now, I was like, you had no idea what was going on.
Were there any times that they gave you some pretty harsh advice that ended up really paying off later on?
No, actually, I think the best, parts about it was kind of, doing sessions, and especially with Philip. I mean, he was really helping with songwriting and being able to just see like the kind of changes that he would want or the kind of things that, was really important to him. And I think the biggest thing that I learned is like it's so important to have a great concept and something that really feels real to you, and being able to, instead of writing something to write, it's like finding something that's really meaningful and that you relate to. And I think looking back at it now, it's so funny because my songs that have done the best are always the songs that I'm like, these are so specific. No one's going to relate to these, but this is exactly what happened. And then, you get thousands of comments. They're like, this same thing happened to me. And I'm like, oh, I'm like, okay, like I love writing this stuff. So I love being able to just say things that maybe other people wouldn't say. And if I'm feeling something, like exactly how it went down is how I'm going to write about it.
Yeah, and then so in 2020 you released like, I might get these numbers wrong, but it was like only like I think like two songs. 2021 you do like 4 or 5, and then 2022 you release an EP and like 20 songs. So what
Oh
happened in
yeah,
that
it was
short period of time that just notched the number up so much?
So my first project, I was rolling that out as singles. So I think it had started in 2020. We kind of started at the end of the year. I think I did Loner was my first single. I did a few more and then I finished out that EP. And then I started releasing a second EP. And that's kind of when everything on TikTok was really blowing up for me. And I was releasing a lot of music and I was writing so much music. And I think that year I released 3 EPs and a lot of singles. I mean, it was a lot. I released so much music. And then yeah, I think I had so many songs that I wanted to share with the world and I was like, why wait? I'm such a person. I'm like, if I love this and it's, meaningful to me today, I want them to have it in 4 weeks or as soon as they can. So, yeah, I'm super grateful for my team for being able to be, that fast paced and with so many releases, but there was a lot of music. And then last year too, I think I did it might have just been my album and some singles, but the album was 24 songs. So that was a lot. I have, looking back, I think I don't even know how many songs I have out at this point.
What's the shortest turnaround that you've ever had from conceptualizing a song to having it, out on streaming?
Well, you always have to give it 4 weeks,
Because of the
so
playlists?
probably 4 weeks, but production wise, we've had to turn around a song, and I remember being in the studio the whole entire day. We had 24 hours to finish it.
Now, is that like because of a label contract type thing, or are you just like, I need to get this song
It
done?
No, so I've been independent the whole time, which is really nice. So everything's been on my own terms and I've been able to release whenever I want, whatever I want. We had a moment that was just like really going on TikTok, and so we had switched some release dates to move something, and so we had to have a release to fill out that spot. So they, my manager I think called me and my producer and was like, you guys we got to get this done in 24 hours. And we're like, we're on it. So we have to like redo all the vocals, do the harmonies, do production, get it mixed. I mean, it was a lot, but it was so fun. Like, I'm super happy. That was for Even If It Hurts, which is still one of my favorite songs.
Sometimes just forcing yourself to do it, like the best stuff comes out of that. Putting yourself in
Exactly.
a
I'm like, we
corner.
got to get it done.
Yeah. Do you always, when you write your music, do you always come to your team with an idea, or sometimes just maybe a producer say, "Oh, I have this chord structure and this groove I think you'll like," and then you write to that? How does it usually happen?
I I always have an idea. Sometimes it's just something simple as a concept, and I'm like, I'll go into the room and I'm like, hey. And if they want to build tracks before, that's totally fine. I've done that, but I'm like, hey, this is the concept. Like, I like building it in the room usually just so I can like get the vibe and make sure I like it and make sure it fits. And we'll start with the concept, then we'll usually find some chords. Sometimes I'll have melodies before, I'll have like a full, just like a chorus or a pre or a verse that I'm like, okay, this is what I want today's song to be, and we'll kind of build it around that. But yeah, I mean, it's really different every time, but I have a list of like thousands of concepts and I just will write and update throughout my day. So usually when I'm in the session, I'll like sit down and I'll read through all of them and I'm like, this feels good for today.
So what's your like normal work week on a week? Are you in the studio every single day bringing in concepts, trying to get songs done on a daily basis?
I think now it's changed a lot, but there was a time that yes, I was in like 2 sessions every single day and it was really fun. I would go from session to session. Now I'm probably doing a session 4 times a week, and
Hmm.
then I have days that I do content or I do fan initiative stuff or I do co-writing for other people. When I'm working on my project, like I'm working on like a new album or something, I try to do a little bit less co-writes because I'm like, I need to focus on my world and, make sure I'm not spreading myself too thin with everything that's going on. But yeah, I mean, meetings, I do a lot of, events. It really just depends what the schedule is, but I try to have at least 4 sessions a week.
When did you start really playing the music out? You were starting to release the music. When did you start? I mean, obviously not during the pandemic. When did you really start going in and trying to get gigs so you could really perform this music?
It was really until I think the songs had already actually been out, and I had some people had reached out to me and they're like, "Do you want to play?" And I was like, "Yeah, I would love to play." And we one of my first shows, we had a sold out Troubadour show, which was a blast. I did it with one of my
Wow.
best friends, which was so fun. And we got to perform together, and I had written some songs for his project, so we got to perform one of them together. And yeah, I started just doing some shows here and there, and then I had gotten my first touring look was Alexander Stewart, which I got to do, I think it was 4 days with him. And that's when I really realized I was like, this has just brought my passion for this to a whole nother level. I'm like, if I could be on the road every single day, I would do it. I would go to every country, I would pack up my life, and I would live out of my suitcase. But Yeah, I mean, singing the songs live is just it brings such a different world to the music, and like seeing how fans, if you're playing unreleased songs, like seeing which ones are their favorite, seeing which words everyone's singing, seeing which parts of the video they all post. I think it's very good for like research too, to see, what they're liking, and to see what they want more of.
Now, are you in the process at this point of getting a headline tour set up?
We're working. We actually we had one, but it got moved because we have some other exciting touring looks that I'll be opening that I can't speak on yet, but that should be
Damn it.
announced hopefully
I
soon.
want the secrets.
But yeah, we're definitely planning a headline tour. That's something that's really important for me. But I was like, I've only been on 2 tours in my whole life, so I was like, maybe we do a few more openings, and then when I do my headline, I really want to make sure we can go to all the cities we haven't gone to, and I want it to be global. I want to go to the UK. I want to go to Asia. I want to go to Australia. So I think just figuring out the best time, and I think my headline tour is going to be a lot of dates.
Hmm.
So we wanted to make sure, especially before that happens, I want my headline tour to be focused around the next album. So I need to finish that and make sure that's in a place where I feel ready, where I don't have to, because if I'm on the road, I can't do vocals, I can't do photo shoots, I can't do anything. So as soon as we feel like we're in a place where all of that is ready, and I, can deliver that the best, as the fans deserve, then we will definitely be announcing dates.
What point of the process are you in for that upcoming album?
So we actually had written the whole album, and then I was listening to it and I was like, you know what? I don't like this anymore. I was like, I want to change this. I want to go a little bit of a different direction. Like, I want to work on these songs more. Like, this doesn't feel right.
Hmm.
So we worked on a lot of them. We kept a lot of the singles. I mean, First Time, Driving Weather, Don't Let Go. We have a few other singles coming out. And yeah, there was something about it. I was like, I have such a specific vision for this next album, and I have, the name and a bunch of things, and I'm like, I need to make this absolutely perfect and feel in that world. So we're still working on it. I mean, there's probably going to be a lot more songs written. I'm sure there's a lot of songs that we had written that just need to be tweaked and changed, or but I'm very excited. It's my favorite music I've ever worked on in my life, and I think it shows a much different side of me,
In what
which I'm
way?
very excited for everyone. I think before, a lot of my music has been about just relationships and exes, which there's still always going to be that part of me, and that's going to be a big topic in all of my songs. But I think this album, there was a lot more of me just like looking inside myself and being anxious and overthinking and talking about mental health, and being happy and talking about why that scares me, and, healing after a breakup. And just, I feel like I really learned a lot about myself, where I feel like my last album, I learned a lot about my breakup, and that I'm like, I need to stop being codependent. And it was more on the relationship side. But
Yeah.
this side, I was like, oh, okay, this album actually helped me heal and feel better and stop overthinking and realize that if I'm anxious, like, it's okay. So I'm excited for people to be able to see it.
Now, jumping back a little bit, you're just pretty recently coming off a tour with Madison Beer at opening for her for
Yes.
like 8 shows or something like that. How'd you get hooked up with her?
Yes. So I actually I've written with her brother, her younger brother, before, for his project. So I got introduced to the family that way. We had a session, and she actually came into a session, and we all wrote together, and she's absolutely the sweetest. And yeah, we pitched. I mean, our agents had pitched for the tour, as it usually works, and they were like, you got it. And I was like, what? This is absolutely crazy. So I got to go on 10 dates with her, which was literally one of the best experiences of my life. I mean, she's so talented, so amazing. And I also got to go on with Upsall, and I've been such a fan of her music. It honestly felt like the best two people to be able to learn from and to be able to look up to. And, I'm such a fan of both of their musics, and they're both so sweet. So it was incredible. I mean, playing the Greek theater has got to be up there for one of the best moments of my life.
How did you prepare yourself for that tour? Did you do anything specific? Because I know playing night after night is a whole songwriting and singing, and then doing it consistently is a whole different,
Yeah,
it's a whole new
I
game.
really didn't. I mean, I rehearsed a few times. Brought throat coat. Like, I practiced my set, but it was just so much fun. I mean, we had some days off too between the shows. It wasn't like all back to back, which was great. But yeah, it was. I if I could go back there right now, I would be like, let's do it again.
Now, how do you do, like, in terms of a band setup? Are you bringing in a whole band with like a music director and you're basically going through every song and then just stopping and going like, let's do this here, let's try this here? How do you get a set together like that?
Yeah, I mean, for rehearsing, I mean, I have an MD and we have I'm for this tour actually and moving forward for now, it's actually just me with backing tracks, which
Hmm.
has been really fun and I feel like it's able to give a lot more of an intimate, performance, which I love. And being able to have those moments where I'm talking and the show is all about the music and how I can perform it and I think, we're looking in the future to be able to bring in more bandmates. I think before I've done it, I've done the drums, I've done guitarists, I've done pianists, and I do love it. But yeah, it's really about going to rehearsals and you practice and you see where you want to, cut the song and if you want it to go into another one and where you're going to talk. And that's something that's so funny that my team always laughs at me because I never plan what I'm going to say. I kind of just wing it up there. So I'm like, am I going to go over time? Like, where are we at? But yeah, it's so much fun. And just, I feel like as the shows go on, you kind of see how the songs have their own life when you're
Hmm.
performing it live and see which ones they absolutely love and which ones they want to keep. So
So have you
it
moved
was
your
really fun to be able to do it.
have you changed your set list around at all based on how the different audiences react to it?
Yes. So we've changed a lot of set lists around. I've played a bunch of different songs. The Madison one was we did the same one every single time. And then for this Each tour, I added some new songs, added a cover. For the remaining dates, we're gonna change it a little bit too, because there'll be an unreleased song that I want to play. So yeah, I'm very excited. It's always fun, but it's, again, it goes down to how much time do we have and how many songs can we fit in there. And for the Madison tour, I think it was 20 minutes and we played, I think it was like 9 songs and some songs were a minute long and we went to the next one. Some we mashed up, like some we cut the intros, we didn't do the bridge, we didn't do the outro because I was like, I really want everyone to be able to hear as much music as they can and especially their favorites. And when you're, for me, I'm like, if I went to an artist show and they didn't play their top songs, I would be pissed.
Ah,
It's like you want to hear those. So I'm like, because I have so much music out, I'm like, okay, guys, we got to pick here. Like, I can't play all 120 songs tonight.
uh-huh.
So, yeah, it's really fun being able to see. And I usually will do polls and ask them, like, cities, what songs do you want to see? And sometimes we'll swap one out if a lot of people say that they want to see a specific one.
I have a distinct memory, and my mother does too, of her and I going to a music festival to see. I'm sorry, he's alive. I don't know why I'm looking up like he's in heaven. I think he's alive. I'll have to Google this after. We went to go see Todd Rundgren, amazing musician. And I'm hoping I'm getting these names right because I feel like I'm gonna mess it up. But I think he had the song "I Don't Wanna Work, I Just Wanna Bang on a
Yeah.
Drum All Day," and I remember he did like nothing. Like it was he at this point has gotten to the point where he's like, I'm just playing what I want to hear, and I kind of
Yeah.
felt bad because everybody left. There was like a
Oh,
line
yeah.
of people going out because he did one of his hits, but he did it in a way where it was barely recognizable, which is kind of hip. But at the same time, when you have a bunch of like
Yeah.
40, 50, 60-year-olds who grew up on the music, they want to hear they want to hear the hits.
Of course, they want to hear the exact, but yeah, it's. I think that's something with live. It's like whenever you want to make that creative decision, and you're like, let me change this. We always have to think for like, well, are they gonna like this, or are they gonna, want to hear the other one? And I think it was funny, like for one of my songs, "Shit Show," we took the bridge out, and like the song was ending, and the crowd still thought the bridge was coming. So I was like, the song would end in there, and I'm like, I'm so sorry, guys, not today. This song does not have a bridge on this tour.
What's your
So yeah.
closer at this point? What's like the big hit? What is it? Lego Blocks?
Lego Box is usually second to last. Right now, Don't Let Go. I've been doing it where it's like my most recent single will be the closer. But yeah, first time was the closer on Madison tour, and then Don't Let Go right now has been the closer.
Hmm. And actually, talking about Madison just a little more, I wanted to ask: is there any other upcoming projects with her, maybe in the works that you
Um,
can talk about?
I'm not working on anything with her at the moment, but her brother is one of my, he's so talented and I've been working on some songs for his project. So
Hmm.
we're looking for it. But I would love to work with Madison. She's so incredible and so talented. That would be a dream.
Absolutely. And someone like her, and then early on, Babyface. Those are some pretty intense cosigns. Were there any other people that you really looked up to that recognized your music? Were like, oh, I can't believe this.
Yeah, my craziest one was probably SZA. I woke up and
SZA.
I was like, yeah, I woke up one morning and I had about 100 texts on my phone, and they're like, "Have you seen what happened?" Like, and I was like, "What the fuck is going on?" And I look on my phone, and she had commented on one of my videos, and she was like, "I think you're my favorite writer right now." And she followed me, and I was like, "Oh my gosh." So I, messaged her, and we had some conversations. And other than that, I mean, I've had some. Rosalia followed me one morning, and I was like, "What is going on?" And Halsey had sent me a DM, and I was freaking out. And I've Ash also, who's been one of my favorite artists. She had followed me, and I actually had messaged her. I was like, "Oh my gosh, like I'm such a fan. I would love to write with you." And she was like, "Let's do it." So yeah, I feel super grateful for the cosigns, and I think especially as an independent artist, I mean, it means so much to be able to have people that you've looked up to your whole life, or music that you've loved, and is part of the reason that you're inspired to do music. Be able to comment on your art, so that has been pretty crazy.
I'm gonna start seeing Neriah Fisher in the song credits of SZA and Halsey and all that. So what's coming up besides this album and this tour? Is there anything specific coming up that you want to let everyone know about?
A lot of singles. They can
Mhm.
expect one more single before the year ends, which I'm really excited about. And then yeah, hopefully gearing into this next project, hopefully a lot of tours, a lot of live performances, and yeah, a lot of fun things. We just had our bedazzled pimple patches come out, which was so fun. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of exciting things, and I think as the album, is comes more into fruition, they'll start seeing all the little Easter eggs and sneak peeks. And I tell the fans, I'm like, the album name, it's already out there if they can find it. And some people kind of have, and I kind of brush it off, but I'm like, we'll see. But
What do you mean? Is it like hidden, like a one word here, and like the Da Vinci Code?
it's hidden somewhere, but anyone can see it.
Uh, okay. Do you have any clues? Anything?
I can't give clues because that will give it away pretty quick,
Okay. Okay. Well,
but it's out there.
I'm gonna spend the next like 45 days just for trying to figure out the name of this album, and I'll just put it in
Hey, if
flashing
you
text in the
if
editing.
you find out personally, it'll be our little secret. I will tell you if you're right or wrong. I'll tell you
Okay,
that.
I'll do that. I'll see if I can figure it out. Well, Neriah, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun.
Hell yeah. You know, thank you so much again. You are part of now the Vibe Chamber legacy.
Ugh, I love it.
You are the Vibe Chamber Hall of Fame.
I love it.
Well, thank you. Thank you to everyone who watched. I'll see you the next time we're live. Have a good night.